Hello everyone, you're watching Global Leaders Network, WinTV. I'm your host, Yesoyun. There are many leaders in this world in many sectors such as government, non-for-profit organization, business, education, our industry, and etc. Global Leaders Network invite these leaders and share their wonderful stories. Today, I invited Professor Morse Tan from Northern Illinois University. How are you today?
Doing great, thank you. Glad to be here with you.
Yes. So I actually, before we talk about this thing, would you please briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Morse Tan. I have a wife and 4 kids. We live in this area right now, and I've been at the university for, this might be something like my 8th year or thereabouts, 8th or 9th year, something like that.
So, your last name is Tan.
Yes.
Tan, right?
Yes.
So a lot of people say Tan. I said, no, it's not Tan, it's
Right,
Tan.
right.
Tan.
Some Korean media sources made it Tan.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah.
It's a D-A-N. Why did you make T-A-N?
Well, so my parents actually tried different things like D-A-H-N, D-O-N, but D-O-N was like a first name. And so eventually they settled on Tan, T-A-N, but it's Tan. It's a rare Korean last name, but it is a Korean last name. We like to joke that we hail from Tangun, Hareboji, from the mythological founder of Korea.
Yeah.
It's a joke, but yeah.
So we know you're Korean,
Yes.
probably South Korean. So when
Yes.
did you come to United States, and also where were you born in South Korea?
I was born in Seoul, South Korea, in Hongjae-dong, and in a house that my dad built. And I was less than 2 years old when our family came to the U.S.
Wow, 2 years old.
Yes, less than that, yes.
Wow. And then you finished your degree here, all your education here.
Yes.
And you went to Northwestern University,
I did,
right, for
I
your
did.
law school.
I did.
What did you study specifically?
So I did an international law concentration while I was there. And so that was a major focus, and particularly on international human rights. And actually, even in my application and personal statement to Northwestern, I wrote about how I wanted to do something about the terrible situation in North Korea. So
You have published several books, right?
I've published only one book, but I've published many law review articles, which are like little books or
Little
theses.
books. Yeah. So would you please introduce this book? It says here North Korea International Law and the Dual
Yes.
Crisis. And briefly maybe give us a summary about this book.
Sure, I'd be happy to. The dual crises I'm referring to in this book are the human rights and security crises of North Korea. If you look at the bulk of other books on North Korea, they focus on either security or human rights. This book brings those both together and says if you address both together, you actually have a better chance of solving either one. And also, almost every book out there on North Korea describes what's going on, but doesn't offer solutions. There are few books that offer approaches or solutions. This book attempts to do that in the 3rd section of it. The first section is more historical, the second section is more legal, but the 3rd section is sort of an interdisciplinary, how do we address this in real life sort of section.
I see. How can we get this book then?
So it's available on Amazon. You could also get it from the publisher. There's a discount code if you get from the publisher.
Right. It says enter the code FLR40 at checkout.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So 20%
And it's available,
discount.
that's right, it's available in hardcover, softcover, as well as electronically.
I see. I'd love to actually read this book. Is this for me, by the way?
It's very readable. It's very readable. I don't know if I have another copy myself, even though I'm the author.
Oh, okay.
So this is my last one that I have in softcover, actually.
Okay, we'll get it.
The proceeds of the royalties go to help organizations that help the situation in North Korea, many of whom are listed in Appendix 2 of this book.
I see. But what made you to publish this book?
I've been focused on North Korean issues for a long time. In fact, it's been my biggest focus of my scholarship. And so I also have taught a North Korea seminar. So I'm one of those strange people who actually does what I wrote about in my personal statement. When I'm applying to law school, I've actually been seeking to fulfill what I wrote. I also wrote in there that I'd like to serve as a law professor. And I've done that for the past 17 years or thereabouts. So yes, I'm one of those strange people who's actually doing what I wrote about in my personal statement applying to law school.
I see. But what made you to actually get into North Korea?
Great question.
Human
Yeah.
rights issues, right?
When I was in college, I learned first about the terrible famine that was going on, the horrible human rights situation that was going on, the security crisis that was there in regards to North Korea. And that's when I really came to care deeply about what was going on. And so I actually learned in college too more about my own roots as well. My mom has the most common Korean last name, Kim. In her case, Kwangsan Kimshi, which apparently they were scholars in the king's court historically. On my dad's side, my dad actually, his grandfather, my great-grandfather, was Pyongyang Kamsa, last name of Yu. But my dad's father died when he was young, and my grandmother remarried Tan Haraboji, which is why we became Tan. But actually, biologically, my dad is Yushi, actually. And so the great-grandfather was the governor of Pyongyang province back then, which I didn't know until I was in college. And so I learned more about those roots, and I thought the people in North Korea can't really speak out or do much of anything about their situation. But I thought it was possible for me to do something. And so because I cared so deeply about this horrible human rights and security crises that are there, I wanted to do something about it. So I've been reading, writing, speaking, talking in media like now to try to see if I can have a voice to do something about it.
I see. You said the last name you, and then it's a C. So you probably speak really good Korean.
Well, I basically could say what I want with my American inflection as I speak, but I've had to pick it up like a foreign language because I was a baby when we came to the States.
How many languages do you speak?
Yes, so I am fluent in Korean and in Spanish. A language that people don't really speak anymore, Latin, and little bits of other languages, basic level of French, and, some smattering of other languages. Yeah.
And how many countries have you traveled so far?
I think roughly 30.
Oh, wow, 30 countries.
Yeah.
I think that you will travel more from now on because of your new job. I heard that you were appointed by
nominated
by President Trump as a the ambassador at large for global criminal justice.
Exactly.
So how did you feel once you received that news?
Very excited because this is an opportunity to really pursue justice in regards to the worst mass atrocities that are going on throughout the planet. Crimes against humanity, war crimes, genocide. And so this is a chance to implement the things I've been researching, writing, teaching, speaking about over these years. And so I'm very excited. It's a unique position in the world. No other government has ever had it. And so to be able to pursue justice through a position like this is very exciting to me. And the US government has so many different means by which to pursue these just ends, whether intelligence tools or diplomatic tools or legal tools or economic or even military tools. There's so many tools in the toolbox, so to say, that are there to address, to try to prevent, to try to address, try to mitigate situations of mass atrocity crimes that are going on around the world. So I'm very excited about it and awaiting confirmation by the full Senate, which could happen as early as this week, but it's up to them.
How was the process?
The process was very extensive. You have to credit the US government for being very thorough in this process. I estimate that I filled out 100 plus pages of paperwork. I did something like 13 interviews. There were something like 120 investigative interviews with people who've known me, who they sent investigators to a bunch of different places to conduct these interviews. So it was a very thorough process.
Wow, it seems like quite a heavy role to be, and a lot of responsibility it carries on with this name. Yeah,
Yes, the position requires the person in it to lead and coordinate the joint U.S. governmental efforts. And there are coordinate offices in other departments, such as the Department of Homeland Security, Department of Justice, Department of Defense. There's a lot of coordination and leading of the overall efforts of the U.S. government along these lines. I've also been told that the person in this position needs to sign off on everything that the U.S. government does in this area, in this thematic area.
I see. What do you want to achieve through this role?
So I would like to advance justice as best as I can, using all these different tools in various places in the world. And I have various places that I have in mind presently, but one also has to be prepared as things develop or as things break, as things are actually happening in real time. One has to be aware of serious issues that may yet happen and to be aware of those as well.
I see. In the meantime, I also want to ask you that what do you do when you have a spare time?
So tennis is an avocational pursuit of mine. I like to play. It's a great sport. There's not too many sports that have a 95 and over division for national tournaments, but this is kind of a sport that one can play for a long time. And so tennis has been one of my avocational pursuits. I've taught a little bit on the side and got some great coaching growing up and such. So,
wow. What was your dream when you were young?
Well, when I was maybe preschool or kindergarten, I think I wanted to be a police officer or a fireman because they looked really heroic and noble and rescuing people and things along those lines. But ever since I was little, I've had a strong sense of justice. But I actually thought that I was, when I was growing up, that I was going to go in medicine. Is what I thought at that time. But it was only in college that my direction was turned more towards law school and that direction. And I think that's been a better fit. I don't think I would have been a very good surgeon, for example. So it's probably better for the world that I didn't go to med school, but I instead went to law school in that direction.
What did you decide to go to law school?
So I had the pre-law director at my college was probably the single biggest influence. But I also read various books and tried to learn about it. One of the things I realized when I took a health profession seminar course is I was more interested in the legal, ethical dimensions of medicine even than I was in the direct clinical practice of medicine. So that was actually a turning point as well. My dad thought it would be a good fit for me as well. So the combination of all these things, I ended up going in that direction instead of med school. I was thinking about going to one of those 7-year programs straight out of high school with UCLA Med School, but opted not to do that. And again, probably better for the world that I didn't.
But you could have decided to get into law firm or professor. You took the professor teaching job. What made you to, choose this field?
Well, I was in a law firm initially for a short amount of time, but even before I went to law school, like in my personal statement applying to law school, I said I wanted to be a law professor. And so even before I even went to law school, that was a direction that I wanted to do. I love to teach. I love to research and write. I love to do the things that law professors have the privilege of doing. So,
and bring the good influence to
I try. Hopefully they receive it.
I'm sure they did.
I'd like to think though. Yeah.
And then you spoke in various places, including DePaul University.
Yes.
And,
You were involved in inviting me there when you were at DePaul University. Yes.
Yeah. So we always ask this question when I bring a guest. So I have to ask you too.
Sure.
What is success to you, and what brings you happiness?
That's a great question. I think success is fulfilling what one was made to do and called to do, is my view with respect to that. And for me, that's grounded in my faith as a Christian. And so, and that's really the root of my joy as well. as I follow Jesus. That is the greatest joy and privilege and honor of my life, and I would like it to imbue my life more and more. So that's central for me.
What brings you happiness?
Being more like Jesus and following him.
Oh. Do you read Bible every day and meditate and pray?
That is an important part of my life. I have read the Bible I don't know how many times. And actually, it's probably one of the reasons why I have a strong sense of justice, because there's a lot that the Bible speaks about in regards to justice. And so in terms of looking ahead, serving as Ambassador at Large for Global Criminal Justice, that I think is a great foundation to have, because the scriptures speak often about justice.
How's your faith journey so far?
So I was 4 years old when I became a Christian. I was very young at that time. My children all beat me. I think they were 3. But it's been the most wonderful part of my life. There's nothing that is more important to me.
So lastly, would you please share your comments towards our audience today and to this camera?
Okay, sure. Well, the Office of Global Criminal Justice and leading that as Ambassador at Large for Global Criminal Justice is a position that is far bigger than that of one person. And so I expect that there will be very important teamwork that will be needed in various ways within the Office of Global Criminal Justice, within the State Department, with other departments in the government, but also with civil society as well. And so I would want to partner with people in civil society, whether it's to gain information and insights and perspectives on things, whether it's to have support, whether it's moral support, because a lot of these situations are very challenging. And there are various ways. There's a team of people who are praying for me, and if you are a person of prayer, that would be something I would greatly appreciate as well. But these are trying to deal with the worst mass criminal atrocities that are happening in the planet. This is what the Ambassador at Large designation means, is it's not tied to any particular country or tied to any particular international organization specifically, but the profile of the office is for the world. And it's a small office right now in the Office of Global Criminal Justice for a big, big job. And so I will be also looking for all the support I can get from civil society as well. And this is, I emphasize, much bigger than the work of one person. And so the fact that this position even exists, I think, is a testament to the goodness and greatness of this country, which is the only country that has ever had a position like this. And it's one through which a lot of people can be helped all throughout the world, whether it's in North Korea, whether it's in the Middle East, in places like Syria, Iraq, Iran, Yemen, whether it's in this hemisphere in places like Guatemala, Venezuela, Colombia, El Salvador, whether it's in places in Africa, such as the Central African Republic, Nigeria, Sudan and South Sudan, Cameroon, whether it's in places like Asia, I mentioned North Korea already, but also Myanmar and China and Sri Lanka. There are all sorts of places in the world where these issues are very pertinent, whether on a prevention basis or whether addressing things as they're unfolding, or whether addressing things after they have already occurred. There's a lot of work that can help a lot of people that is to be done. And so I would ask for whatever support and your prayers, if you're willing to give them, as I move forward along these lines, representing this country and trying to advance the cause of justice worldwide in these places that are crying out for it. So thank you for your attention to these matters and for me to be able to share this with you.
Thank you so much for coming to our station and sharing your wonderful story.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
pleasure with you.
Yes.
Thank you for watching Global Leaders Network Win TV. If you want to watch this again, you can watch this through our website and YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe us. And I want to see all of you next week, Thursday, 9 p.m. Until then, have a great week. Bye-bye, everyone.